Personally, I cannot stand smug, oversensitive liberals. You know, the radical feminists and the Black Lives Matter activists who do everything they can to victimize themselves, whether it's through pushing the wage gap narrative or demonizing the police that fight to save lives on a daily basis. Yeah, you know, the ones that act like they're so much better than you. The ones that are always rushing to silence you in the name of being politically correct. The ones whose number one priority isn't fixing the economy or creating jobs or something else that actually matters, but is making sure that they can use whatever bathroom they want, or that people call them by the correct pronoun. Yeah, those people. Now let's change things up a bit. Because I don't know about you, but I cannot stand racist, bigoted Trump supporters. You know, the rednecks and the hicks who actively support his hateful rhetoric and disgusting intolerance. Yeah, those people, the ones that act so patriotic as if they're the real Americans and everyone else isn't. The ones that want to go back to a time when America was, quote, great, but in reality we all know that they just want to go back to a time of white power when African Americans lacked rights and women stayed in the kitchen. The ones whose number one priority isn't ensuring freedom and equality for all Americans, but rather making sure that we can all have our assault rifles so we can go out in the woods and shoot some deer. Yeah, those people. All right, now let me make something very clear. I did not mean anything I just said in either of those two mini speeches. You see, in truth, the rhetoric coming from my first speech, the anti-liberal one, is rhetoric that I've only ever actually seen online or in the news. Granted, I assume that in some parts of the country it's probably fairly common, but likely due to the overwhelming liberal majority at this school, I've never actually heard it here in the halls or in the classrooms. And in my opinion, I think that's for the better, because the rhetoric from that first speech was accusatory and offensive. It was filled with attacks and generalizations, most of which were just flat out false. In my opinion, such rhetoric has no place in the BBN discourse. On the other hand, my second speech, the anti-Trump one, despite also being accusatory and offensive, despite also containing attacks and generalizations, and despite also being flat out false at times, is actually just based on a compilation of statements I've heard from this community. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that maybe, just maybe, some people in this audience are liberal. In which case, I completely understand if you were at all offended by my first mini speech. Look, I was the one who wrote it, and I managed to offend myself in the process. But I want to ask you, at any point, did you feel like you wanted to change your views because of it? Did you think to yourself, wow, Aaron's point was really convincing in denouncing liberalism? I'm going to probably guess not. So my question is, why is that upon being called smug and oversensitive, none of us thought to change our ways and reconsider our values, yet we then turn around and call Trump supporters racist and bigoted and then somehow expect them to change, expect a difference? 2 days after the election, I was walking through the halls, and I heard a student say to his friend, look, I don't care what Trump supporters have to say to defend themselves. Like, if you voted for Trump, then I cannot respect you as a person. And I thought to myself, 63 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. And you're telling me that you can't respect any one of them? As if each and every one of them is somehow racist or bigoted or harbors hatred in their heart. No. See, I refuse to believe that. I have too much faith in the citizens of a nation that was founded upon the principle of equality. A nation that idolizes its philosophy of innocent until proven guilty. See, the path towards ending intolerance isn't through name-calling. It isn't through delivering a series of attacks and then expecting a change of heart. And it sure as hell isn't through permanently losing faith in half the nation. The path towards ending intolerance is through understanding. Instead of choosing to believe that 63 million Americans are simply bigoted or racist or sexist or hateful, I choose to believe that there are 63 million Americans out there that I simply do not understand. 63 million Americans that I would love to sit down with and have a conversation, to share my concerns and to hear theirs, to learn their perspective of the world and to explain mine, to have a discussion rather than an argument. Although it may not feel like it, we are still one nation. I have no intention of letting that slip away anymore.